Hi guys, welcome back at Darish Zone. Another video. King is back. Another video on King with the classy themes. One of the new themes I've made for King 256GB. My last image, which is got an A ranking on Drew Talks. So thanks Drew for this A ranking. The Drew Talks is very hard on the image evaluation. Let's see, the Drew analyze all elements of the image, and he tried a lot of images through the years, so I'm flattered to get an A ranking, King ranking. So why this video? This is my custom theme, you already told, and is based on, I want to talk a little about this base, which is by Nicola Rosa Sicuelo. I've made forks on the already available base and just modify a lot of things. But I have to start from a base because I'm mostly a graphic musician. I'm not a Linux coder, so I don't have the knowledge to make entirely a theme. So I have to start from other base, but I've always give credits to the original author. So this theme is based originally on Sicuelo, and you can download Sicuelo from Emulation Station. This is my fork, one of my fork, because I made another types of variants from this base on King image, and it's not so much different, to be honest. Just the blue screen, I've made some edits you see on the selector, because through the months of edits I've learned something. So then this selector and the base, the windows of the game list is dark blue, navy blue. This is elegant, the yellow text, but it's not so much that the artworks are all different. In that case are mostly photos, but it's elegant, it's simple, but it's not so much different than the original Sicuelo. Sicuelo is the scroll is on the system is on vertical, and this is horizontal. Just a detail, but let's back to our interest, which is the King. Why another video on King? Because I want on this video to explain some things on I've not talked before. It's a little, it seems I disabled the quick system select. Okay, it's working now. One of the first things I want to talk is the bezel, the overlays. So the bezel are not enabled by default, because we talk on the Discord channel server, and most people prefer to not have the bezel by default, but it's not the problem. The bezel are still included. You have to set by yourself. Let's try again. You just and this is valid for every emulator which use RetroArch, so it uses overlays. Okay, when you start every emulator, you with the combination enter in RetroArch, search for settings, go for on-screen display, on-screen overlay preset, and you have a lot of folder available. The first folder is the most important. This is the Z folder. Those are minor folders with the Nintendo 64 and SNES CD theme, and the borders. These are other overlays made by other artists. All my Bezels are included into the DZ folder, which is very large folder. And then you have the off file, which I will explain you later. Let's focus on DZ folder first. In that case, I check the PSX, which considered we are on PS1 emulator. So for every system I've already told that, I repeat, you have the last letter is S and NS. It means scan lines and non-scan line. Those are the fake scan line I made, which don't hurt performance of your PI. You can activate the shaders, but the shader scan lines or filter effect are a little taxing on the system performance. The scan lines I've made are just a layout overlap to the image, so it's not impact the performance. Let's try the PSX scan lines. Then you have to set the opacity to 100, and I will explain you later how to save that element. Go back, quick menu, and resume. And then you have the PS1 bezel with added scan lines. Should be around 25% if I'm not sure, but it's not too aggressive, otherwise the image is too dark. Okay, and this is Carmageddon. You can also change the bezel, there's no problem. So it's a little tricky, but not much operation to do the first time. Mamma mia. Whoops. I think the pedestrians are showed as zombies. No, there's zombies and humans. Not clear. I think all are zombies to make the game less harsh. Anyway, Mega Turbo. Is this game bad? Well, okay, it's not important. This is not a gameplay video. It's a tutorial video. When you made this operation, if you quit RetroArch, you will lost all your edits. Indeed, so you have to do all the time this operation, and is a little obnoxious, no? So to prevent that, you go to quick menu and select the very last option, which is called overrides, and you have three options: save core override, save contents directory override, and save game overrides. The first will save the overlays on all the games, the PS1 games, so all games which are related to the rearmed emulator. If you go for the second option, you will only save for the game included on a folder, so it's very similar to the first, because we're talking all PS1 games on the same folder. If you select the third option, the save game overrides, you will save the bezel only for this game, which makes sense if you want a specific overlay for a game. If you want a generic overlay, I suggest to use the option in the middle. When you have selected, you can exit even the emulator, no problem. The time when you reload, you will see the bezel you set, okay? But there's a little catch. Once you added and saved the bezel, apparently there's not a way to disable again and then save and keep the bezel disabled. Seems it pops out anyway. So to disable the overlay, same thing qui here. I just load a random bezel, don't mind. This is the spectrum bezel, okay? To disable the bezel again, you go back to the settings, go to on-screen display, on-screen overlay, overlay preset, and select off, okay? Turn back, quick menu, go again to overrides, and then save another time at the middle, the option in the middle, and you will disable the bezel. And of course it will save for the next time you play a game. So the bezel are here, there's a lot of bezel. You only have to set by yourself. I leave the choice to you, because some people prefer, we discuss this thing on the server, on my server. Some people prefer those which have the cabs settings, for third settings, and they are not interested on bezels. So I'm first to admit there's some cases which bezels are a little obnoxious to have. So maybe it's better to set by every tastes and will. Let's see. Another thing we want to talk is don't mind the vectors. The vectors is not included on the King. Don't mind that. And let's see next, but just to demonstrate, I'm just working on another image, way bigger image than the King, because the Z never stops. So don't mind if there's difference with the King, I will tell you, no problem. This is the prototype of Batman. Nobody care of game, just it's a half game, but the sprite was not bad. Okay, another topic, the shaders. The shaders are disabled as well, but same thing, you have a lot of choice into the image. You just have to select shader passes and move to 1, then go to shader, and this means is not select any shader. Then you have to explore the folders, just check for shaders, and then you have a lot of choice. And I tell you, the best you can pick is the classic, very classic CRTPI, which is the way more flavors. The best is the CRTPI curvature battery, because this let curve the screen, and it's very realistic. The effect is very similar to the CRT type, but remember, this is the most demanding shader, and it will impact heavily on the performance. So beware. You can choose the more simple CRT PI. When you have your shader of choice, just strike Apply Changes, quick menu, and the resume, and you have the shader. To be honest, from my point of view, is not so different than the shaders I've made included into the bezel, but this can be enabled separately. I don't know if the word is correct. You can set the shader on its own, and you can set the bezel on its own, so that is not bounded. Let's see, like that. Why I run this game? For example, I don't know. For example, I don't know. Fatal Fury overlay, which is feel better, should feel good with the Batman game. No, that's not this very peculiar bezel. Let's go for something more Atari. Okay, you see there's the Atari bezel with the shader I've selected before. So, but you see, I don't know if the camera can show that, but if disable the shader, okay, just set to 0, Apply Changes. So I've disabled the shader. You see, it's gone. And I disable the overlay, okay, is back to default. And I set a bezel with the scan lines included, like for example the neon. This is the bezel I've made for the neon image, which is on two versions. Let's load the scan lines 25 and set to 100 like before. This is a little technical video. I know some of you will be bored, but some of you ask on the server, so I'm glad to explain how it works, and even for people which saw the 3 Talks review, something noticed, of course, the lack of bezel. And this is the bezel I made with the scanline included. You have to see is not so much different, but it's different with performance, because this game is simple, okay, but if you go for a very complex game, let's talk for example an arcade, Capcom, any Capcom Warzone, one of the most advanced arcade Capcom, that one, if you enable the shaders and the overlay, it will go half the frame rate. So this is not so good. So this is not so good. So if you just enable an overlay, a DZ overlay, for example arcade, in that case is fit well, 25, 100, don't worry, you just follow the tutorial I have explained before, and then you have to do all this every time, okay? And this is the generic arcade bezel plus the scan lines, fake scan lines, and this is fluid because it's just an image overlapped. you don't see any performance hit. Of course, this is run on full HD because I'm forced the emulator to run full HD. If you load the resolution to the HD ready, for example 720p pixels, maybe the game will run fluid even with the shaders. But if you have a serious display, the difference between the full HD image and HD ready is drastic. Okay, boys. Also, you have to avoid the resolution switch, I'm sure. If you have a full HD display, obviously you will not have the resolution switch of your display. And is even more faster because the display has not to switch to his native resolution, okay? Okay, and the very last thing about the Spectrum, remember I will make a Spectrum Night. You saw my Night series. I already made the Commodore 64 Night. I will make the Spectrum Night, Amiga Night. Every system we have is Night. 1942, obviously. Last thing on Spectrum, some of you have some issues with the control, which is pretty normal because the Fuse emulator is a little tricky. Unfortunately, I cannot make an unified, I need the camera, unified configuration like I've made for the Commodore 64 and Amstrad, but we have to set every case by case. Unfortunately, the Spectrum is more complex because it has more than one joysticks. Obviously, we talk about to play your Spectrum games on gamepad, so you can still use the keyboard. But you know this is the very controller-friendly image. So my tutorials are focused to make you play that all the computer systems with your gamepad. Okay, so the Spectrum has you go to controls and you have that the retropad is the default set, but you also have the Kempston joystick, the Sinclair 1 joystick 1 and 2, the Timex 1. You have a lot of joystick, but I tell you the more used are the Kempston joysticks and the Sinclair joysticks. So depending of the type of game, you have to set your controller. You see, the 1942 asks for Kempston or Sinclair. So if you want to use Kempston, set on options Kempston, wrong again, Kempston. Quick menu, return to game, and then you have to strike one. Start again. You see, if you don't set the Kempston, you also doesn't have the control of the visual keyboard, which you turn with the select button. Okay. So you strike one, Kempston, open the visual keyboard with select, strike one, and then one player you have to strike 4. Okay, I don't remember so well. But you now play your 1942. The Spectrum games are so fascinating. We dedicate an entire night on Spectrum because this game has gameplay. Okay, it doesn't have the graphic, but it's fascinating. The effects, boys, the effects. So good, so good. And so, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and enjoy King Image. Bye bye.